Hey everyone, my name is Brandon, aka Smart Home Sellout, and today we're going to be talking about the MSR-2. It is a very small MM-Wave sensor that allows, well, really a multi-sensor that allows you to really have some fine-tuned presence detection, whether or not you're talking about a person, a dog. This will even detect fans moving around. So, very interesting little microcontroller. Let's just jump right into it here. So first things first, I just want to explain kind of what all I plan on going over in this video. Basically, I want this to be a MSR2 primer video. So you watch this video, and at the end of it, you feel comfortable taking this sensor and joining it to Home Assistant and tuning it the way you need to, and it just working. So to do that, I want to go over our wiki. We're going to go over getting started article, CO2 calibration, and then configuring the sensor either via Home Assistant or the HLK Radar Tool app, which is actually an app not made by us or made by Apollo. It is actually made by the guys who make the LD2410B mmWave sensor inside of this. Um, so we're going to go over the wiki. Let's see. We're also going to talk about what all this LD2410B sensor can do inside of here. It has gates, zones, and the ability to see through drywall and various other uh, things. So I also will be talking about the benefits of mmWave over PIR, such as being able to see through a shower curtain, able to detect short, medium, or far, and able to tune out false positives such as fans or animals laying in front of the sensor to where it could pick up that still energy. And then finally, we'll be talking about the different ways to mount this guy, whether or not you're using the outlet mount, which I really like myself. Um, we also have the option to use these various little add-ons, whether it's USB C female or male, or this little 90 degree. Um, we basically are able to, and I'll actually just show you here real quick. If we go to the MTR1, for example, we have a user, gosh, is it here? We have a user, yeah, here it is, that is mounting directly to his outlet with one of these 90-degree USB-C adapters. And this is actually a custom PCB and a very tiny 3D printed case. It's really neat little option. Um, okay, so let's just kind of start out here. So Wiki, I basically when you get your new sensor, you'll have a little card that says Apollo Automation on it. It'll have a little QR code. You scan that, brings you right here to this wiki. And the wiki is really nice because we've tried to really make a ton of very descriptive, easy to follow tutorials where at the end of it you just have a working sensor, right? That's the end goal. So we also allow people to comment directly on any of our uh, wiki articles. So please, if you have any suggestions, reach out to us on Discord or support at apolloautomation.com, or literally you can reply right inside of the book stack. On our wiki. So the first things first, we see our books, and let's say that we bought our MSR2. So we're going here, we're going to setup and getting started. This is actually going to take us to the general getting started article. Okay, so here it walks you through, and I'm gonna jump through just a little bit, but it's gonna connect to a hotspot. So basically, all we're doing is we're giving it power, or if you have the outlet mount, make sure that it's facing the correct way. The the MSR2 itself should have the flat side facing forward. If it says Apollo on it, that's the back side. This is the front side. So first, get ready for power. Now we're gonna turn around and literally plug it in. Okay, so now that we've plugged it in, I should be able to come over here. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's read it. So here it says plug it in. Now we need to look on our phone or PC for Apollo MSR1 hotspot. I'm actually going to do that for my phone, but I will show you. So I will go in here, go to my Wi-Fi, Apollo MSR2 hotspot. Okay, so now we're going to click on that. And it says, of course, it should automatically pop up, and it probably will for me here. But I have noticed on iPhone that sometimes it doesn't. So now look, it shows us connected, but nothing popped up here. So now what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna go to Firefox or your browser, Safari, Chrome, and we're going to type in exactly what it says here, 192 HTTP, and then a colon / / 192.168.4.1. Okay, now it will show us a list of all of our access points here. Yours, really, you don't necessarily need to see this. It's the same exact one that it's showing us here. Okay, so now we're just going to choose ours. So we're going to choose the one that says, your normal network, whatever your Wi-Fi is. It'll have a name here. So I'm just going to click on one, and I'm going to fill out my Wi-Fi on it. Okay, so at this point, it says it will now try to connect to the network. Please give it some time to connect. And pretty neat here, if we go back to our Home Assistant, we now see a new device on the network. So you really should follow this because it helps walk you through all this. I just want to give you at least a very quick primer letting us know, okay, we plug it in, we connect to this, boom. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and click configure, submit, finish. Okay, so now we've done that. Now at this point, technically the sensor is inside is inside Home Assistant and we're ready to go. It's this guy right here. I came to settings, integrations, I looked for ESP Home because it's an ESP made for ESP Home device, and I clicked on this new device that we just added. So at this point, we technically have it in Home Assistant. It's detecting things. If I walk over here, boom, it detects in zone 1 and zone 2. Okay, so now we have a working sensor. However, we haven't done anything to really fine tune the sensor, right? And we also aren't able to do updates with our current update platform. So let's get it added to ESP Home now. And that's actually in this as well. It's showing how to adopt our sensor. So if we look here, it said that we connected through our hotspot. Now it should show up in Home Assistant, and we just did that, okay? But now we're going to do this ESP Home side. So it says, okay, go to your ESP Home add-on. That assumes you've already installed it. And then it wants us to click Adopt if it shows a new one. So let's go look there. We have ESP Home. It does show a new one. Look at that. Let's click Adopt. We're going to call it, okay, this is a great time to go ahead and rename everything and get it to work exactly as you want. Okay, so let's just call this one upstairs bathroom MSR. Well, no, MM wave. Boom. So click, and I'm gonna copy that because I might want to use it later. Let's click adopt. So at this point, I will go ahead and use this encryption key, but I can change it later for myself. And let's click install. So it will wirelessly install this for us. It's just going to go ahead and go down that list. Let's go ahead and skip ahead here. So it actually wants us here to, I don't know about not changing the name there. I do change the name and it should be fine. It actually wants us to connect to Home Assistant last, and I'll show you why. We might actually have to delete our device and add it back, and there's no problem with that. But I like being able to show you this because a lot of people will indeed see it and click automatically and be like, oh man, you know what? I mean Home Assistant just clicked, it just said, hey, do I want to add it? And it found a new sensor. It works for everything else, right? So I want to be able to show that level of you know like this is probably a more accurate representation of how someone will add the sensor because a lot of people don't necessarily want to read the documentation before getting started, right? So it's still going. It'll just take a couple minutes. I will say this will take longer if you are on like a Raspberry Pi 3, Raspberry Pi 4, some kind of a small board computer, or single board computer, an SBC. Ideally, you'd be on like a mini PC or something. So definitely something to look for. Okay, so our getting started article. We're just gonna let this go through here. We also want to do CO2 calibration. So at the end of this getting started article here, it's going to say head on over to our CO2 calibration page. And so we will. And what we're doing is we're literally taking it outside, we're plugging it in for 5 minutes, possibly 10, and then we are going to click calibrate to 420 parts per million. And so this is not necessary if you did not purchase the CO2 calibration, or excuse me, the CO2 add-on. Our sensors are cheaper if you don't include that, but you don't get that added CO2 or temperature or humidity from that sensor. Okay, so let's see where we're at here. All right, it does not matter that error logger is not configured. This is normal. We have removed loggers so that we can fit more things on the little super tiny microcontrollers. It does tell us OTA successful, so that's all we need. So at this point, we now have this new, what did we name it again, guys? It is the upstairs bathroom mmWave. Okay, so there's a couple of things here. If you notice, this still shows this old YAML file. So this is not necessary, but it bugs me and I want to fix it. So let's go over here to Studio Code Server. Um, it's okay if you don't have this installed. You can install it. It's just called Studio Code Server add-on. I'll show you here. If you go to add-ons and you were to search Studio Code Server, you just install that. Okay, so let's go back to our Studio Code Server add-on. And if we look in ESP Home, and be very careful, this is super easy to screw stuff up. Don't if I type stuff over here inside my notify YAML, I mess something up, right? So please be careful doing that, or please be careful in here. So we're now in ESP Home, and look at this. We see that really long, scary looking um, name. Okay, so we're actually just going to right click here and we're going to rename it and we're going to call it upstairs bathroom mmWave YAML. And I'll go ahead and copy that for later. Okay, so now if we look in our ESP home, okay, so if you notice there, it actually showed a dock. Sorry for not mentioning that. I hit F5, which is the same as hitting refresh here, and then it refreshed itself. Basically, it thought that there was a new device, but then once I refreshed itself, boom, it knows. Okay, so now we see upstairs bathroom mmwave.yaml. It's exciting. Yet it still knows it's an Apollo MSR-2. Okay, our next steps, we actually want to rename it here as well because we've given it a friendly name, so that's what it shows up on inside of Home Assistant. Well, I'll show you here. So if we search MSR2, where's the other one? This guy. If we search the MSR2, it says upstairs bathroom and memwave, but if we look at each one of our entities, it's this long MSR2 underscore blah blah. That's not a very descriptive entity, and I don't like that. So the best way to do this here is just to type in upstairs bathroom and memwave, and that's our new full name. And what's neat is this actually becomes our new host name as well, and I'll show you why that's useful in a minute. So we're going to click save, we're going to click install wirelessly. Now we're going to let it go through its thing again. It should be quicker this time because it doesn't have to recompile things that it already did in the past and saved. Um, so at this point, this is really more, I don't know, kind of taking, full control of your sensor and kind of naming it the way that I personally consider a little bit easier to use. And again, guys, when we see something yellow like this, not a big deal. Just keep it going. Let's see here. So, we've gone over getting started article. We've done CO2 calibration. The wiki final steps that I wanted to go over here. Actually, not sensor definitions yet. I want to do configuring the sensor via via Home Assistant or the HLK Radar Tool app. So basically, anyone who buys any of our MSR1 or MSR2 sensors, it's fine if these say MSR1 in the video. MSR1 has the identical mmWave sensor inside of it that actually does the sensing for it. These two videos are basically everything that you should need to take a a sensor that is not or tuned out of the box and quickly tune it. And what this is doing is it's basically teaching you how to change these different gates and thresholds. Okay, so we've done and so honestly, I mean, it's not a maybe. You absolutely need to either follow this tutorial, how to tune with Home Assistant, or you need to follow this tutorial and use the HLK Radar Tool app. This actually also has a built-in kind of like a auto detect option, and it goes over this, which is it's really neat. I mean, basically, it's like it's a self-tuning function. It's cool. So definitely make sure to go over that. Okay, so again, OTA successful. That's exciting. We can close out. And again, don't be sharing encryption keys. I'm just showing a tutorial, so it's all good for me. All right, so at this point, we actually now have a new name on our sensor, right? So if we did this first and we did not add the sensor to Home Assistant, I'll show you what that would look like. So right now, if we look at ours, we still have this MSR-2 dash, and then the 6-digit little hexadecimal. Okay, so what I'm actually gonna do here is I'm going to delete it. Boom, it's gone. Now I'm gonna click F5 or I'm gonna refresh here. And you know what? Actually, apologize. It will not automatically show up unless I restart. But I'm not going to do that. Let me just look up its IP address, and that will work instead. Give me just a second. Let's see here. Almost there. Um, 10, 10, 10, 228. Okay, so now ta-da. So it found my sensor. Yours would just automatically show up again here, and if not, you would literally just restart Home Assistant. And when I say restart, I actually do not mean this restart, but I mean a full reboot of Home Assistant. Okay, so now if we go here and look in our integrations for ESP Home, we now have upstairs bathroom Wave. So it joined as that correct name, right? Now if we click on it and we look at something like say our light sensor and we look at its entity, look, there's now it doesn't say MSR underscore 2 underscore and then those random digits. It just says our sensor's name. So and that's really useful when we're turning around and creating automations or scripts or using them in our dashboards. All right, so that's exciting. That's done for. And then finally, with our wiki, sensor definitions. So this basically is kind of helping you understand what all the sensor is doing, and it's nice because it says okay, radar still energy, the energy of the current still target, or whether or not radar like zone 1, 2, and 3 occupancy. They're all really useful when it comes to tweaking your automations to make like for example, let's say that you set up 3 zones. Zone 1 is your close one, zone 2 is your middle, and zone 3 is your far. If you only want something to trigger in zone 2, then that zone 2 occupancy would be what you would use for your automation, right? All right, so now that we've done those, let's talk about inside of this little guy. Okay, so let's pop this little thing open, and if we actually look inside, this teensy tiny little guy here is, let me get up close here, excuse me, this little blue strip is the LD2410 itself, and that is a Wave radar sensor. So what this is basically doing is it's just bouncing, it's sending some well, I I'm sorry, not radio waves, radar waves out and bouncing back, and it's measuring those. We actually have a SCD40 sensor here, which is a really high quality. It's called a NDIR SCD40, an NDIR sensor. It's a very high quality sensor. So that will give us very reliable CO2. slightly less reliable readings on temperature and humidity because of the heat of the microcontroller itself getting hot. So on here also, there's even a little RGB LED. There is a lux sensor. There's a buzzer on the MSR-2, I believe. It's really quite impressive how much is on these little sensors. There is a buzzer, yes. Okay, so I'm gonna put this little guy back in the case, and as you can see, it just kind of sits in real gently. Okay, so our next steps are talking about gates, zones, and the ability to see through objects. Okay, so what's really neat here is this sensor itself is not a. Oh, hold on a second. Let me pop this in. All right, sorry about that. So the sensor itself is actually a uh, much better option over like a traditional PIR sensor, right? So your PIR sensor is a traditional like or aka a traditional motion sensor, and this is the Akara P1. It's still a nice sensor. Um, but the issues are I'm sorry, I'm actually gonna go over that in a second. So what I'd like to go over though is gates and zones and the ability to see through objects such as drywall. So the drywall is really neat because people have been mounting it, say, in a bathroom under a cabinet. I've seen them talk about just behind drywall itself. I will say that we don't have an exhaustive list of, oh, okay, it'll go through this much wood or this much drywall. On some level, you're just gonna have to try some real world examples and see how it works for you. So then we also have gates and zones. Well, what are gates? What are zones? Uh, Zones are super simple. Just think of them. A zone is, I'm gonna go this far, and we'll actually show you here. There's a really really nice video, or two nice videos that they created. So, MSR2. Where are you? Calibrating. Right here. So, okay, so these two, he
The
basically goes
radar
over, let's see
zone.
here. So he's basically showing us here, okay, zone one, will go from the sensor going outwards however far, and that's configurable. If we look in our definitions, we say what zone ends, where zone one ends, and zone two and zone three. Um, and so you're able to, for example, I use it at the top of my stairs, and I could reliably tell if you started at the top, if you're in zone one. If you're in the middle, you're in the middle of zone two, and if you're at the bottom or you start at the bottom, you're starting in zone three. And then you can automate on that. For example, the light strip that I have in my on my stairs can change effects based on starting up and going down, or starting down and going up, and vice versa. So that's really neat. And then gates are cool because if you look at the
Hey, what's up,
gates
guys?
here, let's see. And this is Julian. This is one of the co-founders. So if we look at the gates here, uh, gosh, let's make it towards a little less blurry. There we go. The gates here, you'll see that basically we're able to tune out all kinds of motion just on, and let's look here. He's got a little just on a specific area. So he's tuning out motion on this fan so that he can still have the sensor here and still have that fan there, but ignore that motion and not trigger it. But a person would still trigger if you get over those gate thresholds. So gates are really neat. Okay, so the benefits of mmWave over PIR. This is really a no-brainer. I mean, this works great when you walk into the bathroom. If you sit really still while you're on the pot, or if you're out of range, it only has the FOV of so far, your lights will go out on you, or you'll have to have a really long timer. Another really big benefit is over PIR is PIR, it's got to see you. It cannot see through a shower or through any type of obstruction. However, the MM Wave can. And so that's a really neat use case of the outlet mount of the MSR-2. You're literally able to mount this sucker right up against, like say your bathroom. I'll give you an example of mine. I have this bathroom right here, and there's a little outlet. That outlet is perfectly facing to be able to see if someone's using the restroom or if they're in the shower, and I can automate that on that um, appropriately. Okay, so that's a really neat one. Uh, so also ability to detect short, medium, or far range with zones. Also a very, very awesome um, ability, like I was saying on my stairs, right? And then ability to tune out false positives. So fans, animals laying there. I mean, literally, my dog will still trigger, just like me. I think that'd be really hard to tune out. But if my cat is laying at the bottom of the stairs, I can keep that as still energy, and I can tune that out, and then my stairs won't keep trying to turn the lights on because they think a person's there when it's just a kitty cat, right? So pretty neat. And then honestly, I also just kind of wanted to go over the different ways of mounting. This outlet mount, I think, is just a really neat option. I will say that ideally you want to be about 4 meters off the ground, and then you only, or maybe is it 2 meters off the ground? I'll have to look at the documentation. It's actually right here. If we go to MSR-2 and we go to General Tips, so really helpful. Shows our mounting. 1.5 to 2 meters high, and then you go a 5 meter distance, and then it's kind of a cone, so it gets bigger as it goes out, right? And then same here, showing a wall-mounted linear test as well. Okay, so uh, this is a really neat option. However, we also have the ability to, and this is really neat here, you basically can pop these little backs off and pop these on, and now guess what? This becomes your nice little articulating mount. So you can, and it's got a little rigidity to it, so you got to kind of, give it a little force, but you're able to kind of put that wherever you'd like, and it still seems to hold enough rigidity to hold steady. Uh, and then other people are literally putting them behind drywall, or they're using these little like 90-degree adapters and then going directly into an outlet itself, like an outlet with USB-C. So that's a really neat option. Yeah, I mean, hopefully this helps you kind of feel a little bit more comfortable about the MSR2. Uh, I personally think that it's a really neat sensor. I was suggesting these before I got hired on a couple months ago. I'm doing support for them now, but even before joining them, I already had an MSR1, which is a very similar sensor, and it worked great. And I was very excited to try out one of the Air ones that we have. Just to kind of close this out here, if we go to their website. This air one is a really really neat sensor if you're looking for a air quality sensor for your house. The SIN 55 inside of it is just a really neat sensor. So um, anyway, guys, well this went over how far I was looking to go anyways. But thanks for watching, and hopefully this helps. Have a good one, guys.